The bruises circling her wrist resembled nothing so much as another man's brand, a claim of ownership. And Luca Bandini was not in the habit of sharing. Not his territory, not his concerns, and most definitely not the woman who had commandeered his thoughts for the past 3 weeks. She mumbled something about being clumsy, already backing away, but the decision had solidified the instant her sleeve crept upward. Whatever lowlife had laid hands on her had just become his personal problem to eliminate. Before we proceed further into this story and discover what unfolds, we kindly request you to subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments section where you are watching from. Your support is invaluable in helping us bring these narratives to life. Alandis was winding down for the night. The last vestiges of D.C.'s elite clientele were trickling out, past the velvet ropes and the imposing doormen. These men projected an image of corporate security, but they possessed credentials of a far more dangerous nature. The smooth strains of midnight jazz still resonated from hidden speakers, vying for dominance against the insistent thrum of Luca's pulse as he observed her navigating between the tables. 3 weeks. That was how long she had been employed here. That was how long he had dedicated to scrutinizing her. He noticed the precise angle of her posture when she believed herself unobserved. He registered the subtle flinch she exhibited at the sound of raised voices, a reaction she never displayed in his presence. It was as if some inherent part of her instinctively discerned the contrast between men who issued threats and men who delivered on promises. He shouldn't be observing her with such intensity. She was a member of his staff. He adhered to strict regulations regarding relationships with employees, boundaries designed to maintain order in his world and keep his conscience at bay. But Era Voss possessed a certain quality that compelled him to reassess those regulations. When she first started, she had exuded a vibrant energy, her wit sharp enough to exchange playful barbs with Matteo, her audacity sufficient to laugh heartily at Luca's lieutenant's truly awful jokes about imported wines. Her eyes had burned with a captivating intensity, prompting him to momentarily envision her in his penthouse, rather than his restaurant, adorned in something far more alluring than that starched uniform. Recently, however, that vibrant heat had been extinguished, smothered by some unseen force that caused her shoulders to hunch inward and her sleeves to extend past her knuckles. Despite the pervasive warmth emanating from the kitchen, Luca followed her progress towards his table, registering details that his men overlooked while engrossed in arguments about the next day's shipment. He noted the way she clutched the wine bottle with excessive force, the shallowness of her breathing as she approached within 6 feet of him. He saw the deliberate angle of her wrists, carefully concealed and protected. "Your wine, Mr. Bandini." Her voice had lost its former vibrancy, stripped of the musicality it had possessed just 3 weeks prior. He yearned to restore that music. He desperately wanted to know what had stolen it away. She reached across the table to pour, but the laws of physics betrayed her carefully constructed defense. The weight of the bottle shifted unexpectedly. Her grip faltered slightly, and her right sleeve exposed 2 inches of pale skin. Luca became utterly still. Purplish-black bruises encircled her wrist like some grotesque bracelet, for distinct marks where fingers had dug in deeply, possessive and cruel. A thumb's shadow marred the opposite side, completing the handprint of someone who claimed ownership over her body. Something primal and deeply territorial clawed its way up his throat. Era's eyes met his, and she saw precisely where his gaze was fixed. The color drained from her face, leaving it ashen white. She yanked her sleeve down with such force that she managed to splash wine across the table. "I'm sorry. I'll get a cloth." "Don't." The single word was as quiet and sharp as a blade. "Sit down." "Mr. Bandini, I really should." "I wasn't asking, Dolcezza." The endearment slipped out before he could restrain it, a term of affection, low and possessive, and completely inappropriate for an employer addressing an employee. Her sharp intake of breath indicated that she had registered it too. She had recognized the shift in his tone, from the purely professional to something far more dangerous. She sat, not because she desired to, but because that tone brooked no refusal. Smart girl. Around them, the normal sounds of the restaurant continued unabated. His men's boisterous laughter, the clinking of glasses, Senator Rhodes signing his check at table 4. Normal sounds in an acutely abnormal moment. Luca leaned forward, deliberately invading her personal space, close enough to witness her pupils dilate, close enough to observe the frantic pulse beating in her throat, close enough that she would feel the weight of his undivided attention like a tangible force. "Show me the other one." "It's nothing. I fell." "You didn't fall." His voice dropped even lower, now as intimate as a secret whispered in the dark. "Someone grabbed you hard. Multiple times, judging by the discoloration. So, let's skip the part where you lie to me because I'm very good at spotting lies, and you're hurting my feelings by assuming I'm not." A flicker of something, perhaps anger, cut through her fear. That was what he had wanted. The fire she had been suppressing. "My feelings aren't your business, Mr. Bandini. They are when they involve my waitress showing up to work looking like someone's punching bag." He paused, allowing his words to fully penetrate. "They especially are when I've spent 3 weeks thinking about what you'd look like in my bed instead of my restaurant. And now I'm wondering if I need to kill someone first." The confession hung in the air between them, too raw and authentic for the polished veneer of blandness. Her eyes widened, her lips parting in shock. "You can't. You don't mean." "I absolutely mean it." He reached out slowly, giving her ample opportunity to withdraw, and lightly brushed his thumb across her covered wrist. She trembled but did not pull away. "Tell me who touched you, Era. Give me a name." For one suspended heartbeat, he thought she might. He watched her weighing the potential cost of revealing the truth against the perceived safety of continued silence. He saw her desperately wanting to trust him, this dangerous man who had just admitted to desiring her, who looked at her bruises as if they were a personal affront. Then fear prevailed. She jerked back, standing so abruptly that her chair scraped loudly against the marble floor. "I have to go. This is—" "You can't." "I can." He stood with predatory grace, leveraging his height, his inherent presence, everything that made him terrifying to senators and syndicate rivals alike. "I can do anything I want in this city, Dalsetsa. The question is whether you're going to tell me who hurt you or if I have to find out the hard way." "There's nothing to find out." Her voice cracked. "Please, just forget you saw anything." She fled towards the kitchen before he could respond, moving with the practiced efficiency of a woman who had perfected the art of strategic retreat. Luca watched her disappear. Every protective and possessive instinct he had spent years controlling now surging against their restraints. He had built his empire on calculated violence and strategic patience. He had learned when to strike and when to wait. But someone had laid their hands on a woman who had begun to occupy far too much of his thoughts. Someone had marked her, hurt her, instilled fear in her. Someone had just made this exceptionally personal. He retrieved his phone, his gaze fixed on the kitchen door through which Era had vanished. One call. That was all it required to set his world into motion. "Matteo, my office. 5 minutes. What's wrong?" "Everything." Luca's reflection stared back at him from the window overlooking the dining room. Impeccable suit, piercing eyes. The face of a man who had transformed violence into a veritable art form. "And I need you to help me find out who." He ascended the back stairs to his private office, each step deliberate. Through the one-way glass, he could see Era emerge from the kitchen, resuming her duties of clearing tables with mechanical precision. She had pulled her sleeves back down, her armor back in place. But Luca had already seen beneath the surface, seen the damage that someone believed they could inflict with impunity. The Capitol dome shimmered through his office windows. All those monuments to justice and power stood proudly against the night sky. Beautiful lies in a city sustained by uglier truths. Luca understood those truths. He had built his empire in their shadows, learning early on that genuine justice was not to be found in courtrooms. It was found in dark alleys and quiet conversations, in favors called in and debts collected. It happened when men like him decided that someone had crossed a line. He poured himself a generous measure of whiskey and waited, his mind already running through various scenarios. Who would be foolish enough to harm her? Who had access? Who believed themselves so untouchable that they could leave such blatant marks? 3 minutes later, Matteo entered without knocking, instantly assessing the gravity of Luca's silence with the skill of a seasoned soldier. "Boss?" Luca turned from the window, his decision already firmly made. The desire could wait, but her protection could not. "Era vas. I need everything. Where she lives, where she goes, who she talks to." He paused, his voice dropping to a tone that was both cold and absolute. "And I need to know who thinks they can put their hands on someone I've decided belongs to me now." Matteo did not sleep. When Luca Bandini expressed a need, you delivered it before he had to repeat the request. By 4:47 a.m. he was ascending the private stairs to Luca's office, carrying a manila folder that felt heavier than it should. The lights were still on. Of course they were. Luca stood at the window overlooking the sleeping city, a whiskey glass dangling untouched from his fingers. He had changed from his dinner suit into dark slacks and a rolled-sleeved shirt. His thinking uniform, as Matteo called it, the outfit he wore when someone was about to experience a particularly bad day. "Tell me you found something." Luca didn't turn around. Matteo placed the folder on the desk with deliberate force. "You're not going to like it. I already don't like that someone put their hands on her. Show me how much worse it gets." Luca approached the desk, flipped open the folder, and became absolutely still. The photograph on top depicted a man in his late 30s. Sharp jawline, sandy hair styled with expensive precision, cold blue eyes that probably photographed well for campaign posters. He wore a tailored suit and an American flag pin, standing at a podium emblazoned with the Department of Justice seal. Beneath the photograph, Matteo had scrawled a name in his blocky handwriting. Adrian Vale, Federal Prosecutor, DOJ Criminal Division. Jesus Christ. The words escaped him, quiet and deadly. "It gets worse." Matteo flipped to the next page. "He's not just any prosecutor. He's the golden boy leading the organized crime task force. 3 high-profile convictions in 2 years. The Attorney General's favorite success story. And he's investigating us." Luca's voice had become flat, devoid of emotion. The tone that meant he was 3 steps ahead, and none of those steps boded well for the target. "He's been on our case for 6 months. He's the one pushing for the dock surveillance warrants. The reason we've had to reroute shipments through Baltimore." Matteo paused. "He's also got friends. Senator Rhodes, Deputy AG Morrison, half the federal bench. The man's untouchable, boss." Luca studied the photograph intently, as if committing every angle to memory for future reference. Adrian Vale smiled at the camera with the practiced ease of someone who had never faced genuine consequences. Someone who believed his position rendered him invincible. Someone who had never encountered Luca Bandini. "Keep going." Matteo produced more photographs. These were different, grainy surveillance shots, obviously taken in haste. Vale and Era outside a Georgetown townhouse, their hands intertwined, both smiling. Another at a charity gala, her in an emerald dress that probably cost a month of her current salary. Him with his arm casually around her waist, possessive and proprietary. The next photo made Luca's jaw tighten. Same townhouse, different day. Era walking towards a car, sunglasses concealing half her face. But the angle caught what she couldn't hide. A faint shadow along her cheekbone that makeup couldn't quite erase. When was this taken? "For months ago. My contact says they were together for almost 2 years. She worked as his legal aid. That's how they met. Smart, ambitious, exactly the kind of woman he'd want on his arm for the political optics." Matteo's voice hardened. "She moved in with him about a year ago. Neighbors reported hearing arguments, loud ones, but nobody called the cops because he is the cops." Luca's thumb brushed across Era's face in the photograph, an unexpected gentleness in the gesture. "Close enough." 2 domestic disturbance calls got logged both times. Responding officers talked to Vale privately and left. No report filed. Matteo produced another document. She tried to leave 3 months ago, filed for a restraining order, but Vale showed up to the hearing with Marcus Grayson. Luca's eyes snapped up. The deputy chief's personal lawyer. The same one. They argued she had no evidence of abuse, that she was an unstable ex trying to damage his career. The judge denied the order. Mateo's expression was grim. She escaped 2 months ago, moved in with her sister in Pilsen, got the job at Belandis through a referral. She's been trying to disappear. He's been looking for her. It wasn't a question. Can't prove it yet, but I pulled traffic cam footage near her sister's building. Vale's car, a black Audi registered to the DOJ motor pool, has appeared on that block 6 times in the past month, always between 2 and 4 a.m. He's hunting her. Luca flipped through the remainder of the file in silence. Financial records detailing Vale's connections to the deputy AG. Photos of him at fundraisers with senators and judges. A news article praising his latest conviction, hailing him as Washington's rising star in the fight against organized crime. The irony tastes like blood. So, let me understand this correctly. Luca's voice was conversational, pleasant even. Mateo recognized that tone. It meant someone was about to die slowly. The federal prosecutor trying to put me in prison is the same man who's been beating a woman half his size. The golden boy of justice gets off on putting his hands on someone who can't fight back. And everyone protecting him is the same system that's supposed to stop men like me. That's about the size of it. Poetic. Luca closed the folder with careful precision. How many people know she's working here? The sister. Maybe a few friends, but she's been keeping a low profile. Vale probably doesn't know yet. We vet our staff carefully, and she used her maiden name on the application. Lopez, not Vale. She kept his name. Something dark flickered across Luca's face. They never married, but she was under his roof long enough that people associated her with him. That's part of why she's scared. His reputation protects him. If she talks, she's the bitter ex. If she stays silent. Mateo trailed off. She stays broken. Luca turned back to the window, watching the first pale streaks of dawn illuminate the Capitol dome. And he keeps hurting her until he either kills her, or she stops being interesting. Boss. Mateo's voice carried a distinct warning. I know what you're thinking, but touching a federal prosecutor, especially this prosecutor, that's a declaration of war. The FBI, the DOJ, every 3-letter agency will come down on us. The families in New York and Boston will think you've gone insane, that you're drawing unnecessary heat. They don't want everything we've built jeopardized. We'll still be standing when I'm done. Luca's voice cut through the warning like a razor. You think I don't know the cost? You think I can't calculate what happens if I move against him? Then why? Because I looked at those bruises and realized something. Luca turned, his expression carved from stone and old fury. We built this empire claiming we were different from the system, that their laws didn't apply to us because their laws were corrupt, that we had our own code, our own justice. He tapped the folder. And here's their golden boy proving exactly why we exist. He uses their badges and courtrooms the same way we use the shadows to get what he wants. Damn who gets hurt. So what? We just accept that we're the same? No. Luca's smile was terrible to witness. We prove we're better. Their justice protects men like him. Ours will end him. The risk is mine to take. Luca moved to his desk, retrieved a burner phone. But we do this smart. No direct action. No bodies that lead back to us. We use what they worship against them. Reputation, evidence, public opinion. He paused. Here's what's going to happen. I want surveillance on Vale. Everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to, every digital footprint. I want to know his schedule better than his own secretary does. And I want to find every piece of dirt he's buried. Men like him always have secrets. Luca paused, his jaw working. Put a protective detail on her. Discreet. She doesn't know they're there. If Vale gets within 100 yards of her, I want to know immediately. You're claiming her. It wasn't a question. Mateo had witnessed this before. Luca deciding something was his to protect. Once that decision was made, God help anyone who stood in his way. I claimed her the moment I saw those bruises. Luca's voice was quiet, absolute. Vale just doesn't know he's already lost yet. Mateo studied his boss, the man who had built an empire on calculated violence and strategic patience, now preparing to risk everything for a woman he barely knew. It should have seemed insane. Maybe it was. But Matteo had learned years ago that Luca Bandini didn't make reckless decisions. He made decisions that appeared reckless until you were standing in the aftermath, realizing he had been 5 moves ahead the entire time. What if she doesn't want your protection? What if she runs? Luca's expression softened fractionally, something almost human flickering beneath the cold exterior. Then I'll make sure she has somewhere safe to run to. But she's not going back to him. Not while I'm breathing. Even if it costs you everything, boss? Luca's eyes were dark, fathomless, filled with the kind of conviction that built empires and burned cities. Men like Vale, they rely on good people being too afraid to challenge them. They rely on systems protecting them, on victims being too broken to fight back. They rely on men like me deciding they're not worth the trouble. He picked up the photograph of Era, the one where she was still smiling, still whole. But he made a mistake. He hurt someone I've decided is mine. And I don't care if he's got the entire Justice Department behind him. I will teach him what happens when you mistake my restraint for weakness. Outside, the sun crested the horizon, painting the Capitol dome in gold. A new day in a city built on pretty lies and ugly power. Inside Luca Bandini's office, a different kind of power was stirring. The kind that didn't need badges or courtrooms. The kind that remembered what justice looked like before it got civilized. Get me everything, Luca said quietly. But Matteo, we do this carefully. Isabella needs 48 hours minimum to crack his security properly. We can't rush this and leave traces. Vale's smart. He'll be looking for who's investigating him. Understood. What about the protective detail on our best people? Rotate them every 8 hours so they stay sharp. And Matteo, Luca's voice hardened. I want surveillance cameras on every approach to her sister's building. If Vale shows up again, I want footage. We're building a case against him, not just watching. Matteo nodded, heading for the door. He paused at the threshold. For what it's worth, boss. She's lucky you noticed. Luca stared at the photograph, his thumb gently tracing her captured smile. No, he said softly. Vale's the lucky one. Because if I'd found out about this after he'd killed her, there wouldn't be enough of him left to prosecute. The door closed. Luca stood alone with the dawn and his decision, holding the image of a woman who didn't yet know that the most dangerous man in Washington had just decided she was worth starting a war over. Adrian Vale's days of being untouchable had just come to an end. He simply didn't know it yet. Era was 20 minutes late, and everyone noticed. The kitchen staff exchanged knowing glances when she stumbled through the back entrance at 5:47 p.m., her carefully constructed composure visibly cracking at the edges. Her hair was pulled back far too tightly, that severe style women adopt when they want to disappear. Dark circles shadowed her eyes despite the makeup she had clearly applied with trembling hands. From his office balcony overlooking the dining room, Luca tracked her movements through the pre-shift preparations. She flinched when the sous chef dropped a pan, jumped when another server touched her shoulder in greeting. Her hands trembled as she tied her apron, her fingers fumbling with the knot 3 times before finally managing to secure it. Something had changed since last night. Something had made her afraid to come to work. She's breaking, Matteo said quietly, appearing beside Luca at the glass barrier. Whatever Vale's doing, he's escalating. Has he been near the building? Not directly, but there were 3 hang-up calls to the sisters' landline this morning, all from blocked numbers. Matteo retrieved his phone, showing Luca the surveillance logs. Rosa answered the first 2. The third time, Era did. Whoever was on the line didn't say anything, but she turned white as a sheet. Luca's hands curled into fists. He's playing games, reminding her he can find her whenever he wants. What do you want to do? Tell her I need to see her. Staff evaluation. Luca's voice was carefully neutral, but his eyes never left Era's trembling form below. And Matteo, get me Vale's phone records. I want to know if those calls came from his cell. 5 minutes later, Era appeared in his doorway like a deer scenting wolves. Her eyes darted around the office, cataloging exits, measuring distances, survival instincts honed by someone who had learned to meticulously calculate escape routes. Mr. Bandini? Matteo said you wanted to see me. Close the door, Era. She hesitated, her knuckles white on the doorframe. For a fleeting moment he thought she might bolt. Then, squaring her shoulders with that stubborn pride he had glimpsed before, she stepped inside, shutting the door with deliberate softness. "Sit!" He gestured towards the leather chair across from his desk. "If this is about last night." She sat, perched on the edge of the seat as if prepared to flee at any second. Smart girl. Though running wouldn't help if he actually wanted to harm her. Luca settled into his own chair with predatory calm, allowing the silence to stretch. It was an old interrogation tactic, designed to compel them to fill the quiet, to reveal more than they had intended. He had learned it from men far more dangerous than federal prosecutors. But watching her shrink into herself, watching fear triumph over that fleeting defiance he had seen the previous night, something within him rebelled against the tactic. "You were late tonight," he said, his voice gentler than intended. "I'm sorry. It won't happen again. I didn't say I was angry. I said you were late. There's a difference." He leaned forward, abandoning his initial plan of intimidation. "Era, I'm trying to help you, but I can't do that if you won't talk to me. Help me help you." Her laugh was bitter, broken. "You can't help me. Nobody can." "Why? Is it because he's a federal prosecutor?" Luca watched her flinch at the unspoken confirmation. "Because he has power, connections, friends in the system?" Her eyes widened. "How did you?" "I know who Adrian Vale is." He kept his voice steady, calm. "I know he's been hunting you. I know about the restraining order that got denied. I know about the calls this morning." The color completely drained from her face. "You've been watching me. I've been protecting you. There's a difference." He stood slowly, moving around the desk while maintaining a respectful distance. "And before you run, before you tell me you don't need protection, I want you to understand something. Men like Vale, they count on your silence. They count on you being too afraid to ask. They rely on women like you thinking you're all by your lonesome. I am alone." Her voice wobbled. "Adrian saw to that. My friends stopped calling after he spun them some tale about me being unstable. My family thinks I'm just being overly dramatic." The judge looked at his fancy credentials and my bruises and decided I was a liar. She stood up suddenly. "So, yeah, Mr. Bandy, I'm alone. And I've learned that asking for help just makes things even worse." "What did he say?" Luca asked quietly on the phone earlier that morning. "What did Vale say to you?" Era's breath caught in her throat. "He didn't say a word. He just breathed. But I knew it was him. I always know." She wrapped her arms tightly around herself. "It means he's close. It means he's found me again. It means I have maybe a week before he shows up." And then she trailed off. But Luca heard what she didn't say. "Before he shows up and takes me back. Before he shows up and kills me. Before he shows up and makes me disappear. That's not going to happen. You can't promise that." "I can. And I am." Luca took a single step closer. "Just one. You came to work here for a reason, Era. You picked bands out of every single restaurant in DC. Some part of you knew what I am, knew what I'm capable of. You picked the one place in the city where a guy like Vale should be scared to follow you." She just stared at him, tears now streaming down her face. "I didn't know who you were when I applied. Rosa just said it was safe here, that the owner protected his staff." She was right. Another step. I do protect my staff, especially when they're being hunted by men who think a badge makes them untouchable. "He'll destroy you." Her voice was barely a whisper. "He's already investigating your organization. If you help me, if he finds out, he'll use it as justification too." "To what?" "Come after me." Luca's smile was sharp and dangerous. "He's already coming after me, Dolce. The difference is I'm coming for him too. And I'm way better at this than he is. You don't understand what he's capable of." "I understand perfectly. He's a predator who's never faced the music because the system protects him. He's used to victims being too scared to fight back, too isolated to ask for help." Luca was now close enough to see the flecks of gold swirling in her terrified eyes. "But you're not isolated anymore, and I don't scare easily." "Why?" The question was desperate, broken. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. I know enough. His hand rose slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving her plenty of time to flinch away. When she didn't, his fingers brushed her cheek, gently wiping away the tears. I know you're strong enough to have survived him this long. I know you're brave enough to have left when most women can't. I know you deserve way better than living in fear. That's not an answer. Then how about this? His voice dropped, becoming intimate and honest. When I was 16, my mother tried to leave my father. He was connected, powerful, untouchable. She filed for divorce and he made her disappear. The confession came out raw, unexpected even to him. They never found her body, and I spent the next 10 years building up enough power to make damn sure that no one in my family would ever be that helpless again. Era's eyes widened. Luca. So when I see a woman with bruises that look like fingerprints, when I see that fear in her eyes, fear that I recognize because I saw it in my mother's. He stopped, his jaw working. I don't walk away. I can't, because walking away would make me no better than the guys who let my mother suffer. The silence that stretched between them was thick with shared pain, shared understanding. Two people marked by violence, learning to recognize it in each other. I don't know how to trust you, Alara whispered. I don't know how to trust anyone anymore. Then don't trust me yet. His thumb brushed lightly across her cheekbone. Just let me keep you safe while you figure it out. Let me prove to you that not every powerful guy is like your father. That not every dangerous man wants to hurt you. What if I can't give you what you want? Her voice trembled. What if I'm too broken? You're not broken. You're surviving. His forehead gently touched hers, the gesture carefully seeking permission. And I don't want anything from you except the chance to keep you alive. If someday you want more, if someday you can look at me without fear, that would be enough. But survival comes first. She was quiet for a long moment, her breathing gradually becoming more steady. Then, the calls this morning. You said you wanted his phone records? Yes, to prove it was him, to document the pattern of harassment. It won't matter. He'll just say he was calling about an investigation, that I'm paranoid, that... Let me worry about what he'll say. Luca pulled back slightly, meeting her gaze. Right now, I need you to make a choice. You can keep running, keep hiding, keep waiting for him to find you, or you can let me help. Really help. No strings, no expectations, just protection until we figure out a way to stop him for good. How? He's a federal prosecutor. He's human, fallible, and from what my people have learned, probably dirty. Luca moved back to his desk, giving her space to breathe. Guys like Vale don't get that powerful that fast without cutting corners, without making deals they shouldn't make. We just need to find them. Era stared at him for a long moment, a war of emotions playing across her face. Fear, hope, desperation, the burning desire to believe. Finally, she whispered, Okay, 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 I'll accept your help, but... She held up a hand. I need to understand the cost. What do you want from me? Really? Honestly? Luca's smile was sad, almost self-deprecating. I want you to stop flinching when I walk into a room. I want to see that spark you had when you first started working here. I want to know that helping you might even out some of the darkness in my ledger. He paused. And maybe, selfishly, I want to prove to myself that power can be used for something besides building empires and crushing enemies. The honesty disarmed her. She'd been expecting demands, conditions, the kind of transactional protection Adrian would have offered. I'll keep you safe, but you owe me. Instead, Luca was offering something far more complicated, something far more real. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now you finish your shift. Act normal. My people will make damn sure that Vale doesn't come anywhere near you. He pulled out a phone, not his usual one, something simpler. This is yours. It has 3 numbers programmed into it. Mine, Mateo's, and a direct line to Detective Morrison. She's one of the few honest cops in this city. If anything happens, if you even think Vale is nearby, you call. She took the phone with trembling hands. Detective Morrison won't help me. I already tried. She will now because I asked her to. And because I showed her evidence of what Vale really is. He didn't elaborate, didn't tell her about the surveillance footage, the patterns Mateo had painstakingly documented. You're not alone anymore. Get used to it. She clutched the phone like a lifeline, tears streaming down her face again. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. His expression turned grim. This is going to get worse before it gets better. Vale will escalate when he realizes he's losing control. But I promise you he won't touch you again. Not in this lifetime. Era nodded, not trusting her voice. She turned toward the door, then stopped. Luca, your mother. Did you ever find out what happened to her? His voice was empty, cold. Yes, eventually. And the men responsible learned what I do to people who hurt women who can't fight back. She should have been horrified, should have recognized the threat, the barely contained violence in those words. Instead, she felt something else entirely. Safe. For the first time in 3 years, Era felt safe. She left his office and went back to her shift, the phone feeling heavy in her pocket. A dangerous man's promise wrapped around her like a suit of armor. And back in his office, Luca stood at the window, watching her move through the dining room below, and made a silent vow to the mother he'd lost, and to the woman he'd decided to save. Adrian Vale's reckoning was coming. It would just take time to build it right. Isabella Moretti arrived at Bondi's at 6 a.m. with 3 laptops and the kind of predatory smile that meant someone's digital life was about to become an open book. She was 32, originally from Sicily, and could make firewalls weep. You need someone's secrets? Mateo asked. She set up her equipment on Luca's conference table like a surgeon preparing for a major operation. I'm guessing this isn't about unpaid parking tickets. Adrian Vale, federal prosecutor. Luca slid a USB drive across the table. Everything Mateo compiled is on there. I need more. Isabella's fingers paused over her keyboard. Adrian Vale, the golden boy leading the organized crime task force. The same one who beats women and stalks them after they leave. Her expression hardened. You said 48 hours minimum? I know what I said, and I meant it. I'm not asking you to rush and leave traces. Do this right, Isabella. If Vale catches even a whiff that someone's poking around in his systems, he'll lock everything down tight, and we lose our chance. Luca moved to stand beside her, his voice firm. Take the time you need. Be thorough. One mistake and this whole thing falls apart. You're actually being patient. She raised an eyebrow. Who are you, and what did you do with my boss? I'm being strategic. He poured her an espresso from his private machine. Vale's smart, he's paranoid. He's probably got alerts set up on all his most sensitive files. We get one shot at this. If he knows we're digging, he'll bury everything so deep we'll never find it. Isabella accepted the coffee, studying him intently. This woman, she's not just another victim to you, is she? No. The admission came easier than he'd expected. But that doesn't change the job. I need you focused, careful. Map his security first. Find the vulnerabilities. Don't touch anything until you're absolutely certain you can get in and out clean. Understood? Understood. She turned to her screens, her fingers already flying across the keyboard. Give me 24 hours for reconnaissance, then another 24 for extraction. If I find something actionable before then, you'll know. Luca nodded and left her to work. Downstairs, the morning prep was well underway. Deliveries arriving, kitchen staff busily chopping and seasoning. The restaurant was coming alive in anticipation of the lunch service. He found Mateo in the wine cellar, meticulously checking inventory. Isabella started, Luca said. Full 48 hours. No shortcuts. Mateo looked up, surprised. You're really going slow on this? We're going smart on this. Vale's not some street thug we can intimidate. He's connected, careful, and actively investigating us. One wrong move and we hand him the ammunition to bury us all. Luca selected a bottle of Barolo. Examine the label. How's the surveillance on Era's building? Cameras are operational on all approaches. Rotating detail every 8 hours just like you wanted. No sign of Vale since we implemented it 3 days ago. He's waiting, testing her. seeing if she'll panic and do something stupid. Luca set down the bottle. What about Morrison? Is she on board? Detective Morrison is cautious. She wants to help, but she's worried about chain of evidence entrapment, her career. Mateo's expression was wry. Apparently, honest cops have scruples about working with criminals. Tell her I respect that. Tell her I'm not asking her to break any laws, just to be ready when Vale does. Luca headed for the stairs. And Mateo, make sure Era knows that the protection detail rotates. I don't want her getting comfortable with faces. If Vale somehow gets to one of our people, I want her to notice the change. You really think he'd try to infiltrate us? I think he's desperate, dangerous, and running out of options. Never underestimate what a cornered predator will do. 23 hours later, Isabella emerged from her digital cave, looking exhausted but triumphant. You were right to give me the time, she said, spreading printouts across Luca's desk. Vale's security is good. Not great, but good. Multiple layers, decent encryption, regular password changes. If I'd rushed, he would have caught me. But you got in. I got in. Her smile was sharp. Started with his personal email. It took 12 hours just to crack it without triggering any alerts. What I found there led me to an encrypted messaging app. She tapped one of the printouts. That's where the real dirt lives. Luca scanned the messages, his expression growing darker with each line. Vale, the Patterson case needs to disappear. He's got connections I can't afford to piss off. Unknown. Evidence is already logged. Vale, then unlock it. You know how. This is what we pay you for. Unknown. Done. Wire the usual amount. Isabella scrolled through more messages on her laptop. It goes back 3 years. Evidence tampering, witness intimidation, bribes to police officers. He's not just dirty, he's running his own protection racket inside the DOJ. People pay him to make cases go away. Can you trace the payments? Already done. Shell companies, but they all lead back to Vale. He's been pulling in about $200,000 a year on top of his salary. Not bad for a public servant. She pulled up more files. And there's this, a folder labeled insurance inside. Dozens of photos and videos. Vale with various officials in compromising situations. Audio recordings of conversations that would end careers. Blackmail material carefully cataloged and stored. He keeps leverage on everyone he works with, Isabella said quietly. Judges, cops, even his own colleagues. That's how he stays untouchable. If he goes down, he takes half the justice system with him. Luca studied the files, his mind already working through the implications. This is enough to destroy him, but it's also a nuclear option. If we release everything at once, Vale might panic and come after us directly. So, what do you want to do? We build a case slowly, like prosecutors are supposed to. His smile was ironic. Start with the financial irregularities. Leak them to someone who will investigate properly. Let the system start questioning him before we hit him with the heavier accusations. You want to use the law against him. Mateo had entered the room quietly, listening intently. Boss, that could take months, years even, which is why we won't rely on it completely. Luca turned back to Isabella. Can you create a dead man's switch? Something that automatically releases everything if Vale makes a move against Era or me. Easily. I can set it to check in daily. If you miss the check-in, everything goes to every news outlet in the country simultaneously. She was already typing rapidly. But Luca, if Vale's people are half as good as I think they are, they might find it. Then he knows we have leverage. Good. Let him know. Let him lie awake wondering if today's the day his whole life burns to the ground. Luca's voice was cold, calculated. Fear is its own kind of prison. Isabella worked in silence for several minutes, then sat back. Done. The dead man's switch is active. You've got a secure link on your phone. Just click it once every 24 hours. Miss a check-in and the whole package deploys. Perfect. Luca pulled out his phone, sent a text to someone. Now we start the public phase. Who are you contacting? Mateo asked. Someone who owes me a favor. Someone Vale can't intimidate. Luca's smile was grim. Senator Patricia Reeves. She's been looking for a cause to champion ever since her sexual assault legislation stalled. I'm about to give her one. Senator Reeves arrived at Bondi's 2 hours later, using the private entrance Luca reserved for guests who valued discretion. She was 58, sharp-eyed, with a well-earned reputation for being the only senator who couldn't be bought, which meant Luca had earned her loyalty the old-fashioned way, by helping her daughter escape an abusive relationship 3 years ago. This better be good, Luca. She settled into the chair across from his desk. I've got committee meetings all afternoon. It's better than good. It's your next headline. He slid a folder across to her, carefully curated excerpts from Isabella's findings. Adrian Vale, federal prosecutor, rising star, and completely corrupt. Patricia spent 10 minutes reading in silence, her expression growing darker with each passing moment. Finally, she looked up. Where did you get this? Does it matter? It matters if you expect me to use it. Chain of custody, legal disclosure, source credibility. All of which will be handled by someone you trust. Luca pulled out his phone, dialed a number, and put it on speaker. Detective Morrison. The woman's voice was professional, cautious. Detective, Senator Reeves is here with me. I'm putting you on speaker. A long pause. Senator. Detective Morrison. Patricia's tone was carefully neutral. You're the homicide detective who testified before my committee last year about police corruption. Yes, ma'am. And you're working with Luca Ballendi now? The disapproval in her voice was evident. I'm working to stop a federal prosecutor who's been abusing his position for years, Morrison said firmly. Mr. Ballendi brought me evidence, and I've spent the past 72 hours verifying what I could through official channels. It's legitimate, and it's even worse than what these documents show. Patricia looked at Luca with newfound understanding. You brought in a cop. I brought in someone the system will listen to. Someone who can testify that the evidence was obtained legally, that the accusations have merit, that this isn't just a mob hit disguised as justice. His voice was steady. You want to champion this cause, Senator? You'll have law enforcement backing you up. Real cops, not the ones on Vale's payroll. And what do you get out of this? A federal prosecutor who's been investigating my operations loses his credibility and his job. Luca didn't bother lying. But that's not why I'm doing this. Then why? He was quiet for a moment. Because he's been terrorizing a woman who works for me. Because he's done it to at least 8 other women before her. Because the system you believe in has repeatedly failed to stop him. He met her eyes. Because someone has to. Patricia studied him. This criminal who'd saved her daughter and was now offering her a crusade. If I do this, if I bring this to the ethics committee, Vale will come at me hard. He's got powerful friends. Not as powerful as he thinks. And after tomorrow, he'll have a lot fewer friends than he does today. Luca stood. I'm not asking you to ruin him overnight, Senator. I'm asking you to start asking questions publicly, loudly. Let the system do what it's supposed to do. Investigate, hold hearings, demand accountability. While you do what exactly? Keep the woman he's hunting safe. Make sure he's too busy defending himself to go after her. He paused. And yes, if the legal system fails again, I have other options. But I'm giving law and order the first shot. That's more restraint than men like me usually show. Patricia laughed, sharp and surprised. You're a complicated man, Luca Ballendi. I'm a simple man who learned early on that power is useless if you only use it to get more power. He moved to the window. Vale forgot that lesson. He used his power to hurt people weaker than him. Now he gets to learn what happens when someone with real power decides to hurt back. All right. Patricia stood, gathering the documents. I'll start with the ethics committee. Quiet inquiries, nothing official yet. If what's here holds up, and Detective Morrison says it will, I'll go public within a week. 1 week is too long, Luca said quietly. Vale's escalating. He's calling Era, circling her building. I don't know how much time we have before he makes a move. Then what do you suggest? Leak it tonight. Not everything, just the financial irregularities. Let the blogs pick it up. Let the whispers start. His voice was firm. Force the ethics committee's hand. Make them investigate publicly instead of letting Vale's friends bury it quietly. Patricia considered this. You're asking me to bypass official channels. I'm asking you to use every tool you have, official and unofficial, legal and strategic. He met her eyes. You saved your daughter by breaking protocol, Senator. By trusting me when every instinct told you not to. I'm asking you to trust me again. She was quiet for a long time. Then, if this blows up, if Vale proves these accusations are false. They're not false. And if somehow they were, the dead man's switch I have set up will ensure everyone knows exactly what he is anyway. Luca's smile was cold. Vale's finished, Senator. The only question is whether he goes down legally or otherwise. I'm trying to give him the legal option because it's cleaner. Because Era deserves to see the system work for her for once. She deserves to watch him lose everything through the courts and committees, not just disappear in the night. His voice softened. She needs to believe justice exists. I'm trying to give her that. Patricia nodded slowly. I'll make some calls. By morning, 3 separate journalists will have the financial documents. By tomorrow afternoon, Vale will be answering questions on cable news. Thank you, Senator. Don't thank me yet. If Vale's as dangerous as you say, this could get ugly fast. It's already ugly, Luca said quietly. We're just making it visible. After Patricia left, Matteo emerged from the shadows, where he'd been discreetly listening. You really think the legal route will work? He asked. No. Luca's voice was honest, brutal. But I'm giving it a chance, for Era's faith in the system, and maybe for myself, to prove that I'm still capable of choosing law over violence when the option exists. And when it fails, then we do what we've always done. Luca turned from the window, his expression carved from stone and old promises. We make the monster disappear, legally or otherwise. Downstairs, Era was setting up for dinner service, unaware that across the city, the first domino was about to fall, that by morning Adrian Vale's perfect life would start cracking, that the man she feared most was about to become afraid himself. And in his Georgetown townhouse, Adrian Vale poured his nightly scotch, reviewed case files, and had absolutely no idea that his victims had found a champion, that his crimes were being meticulously catalogued, that his carefully constructed empire was already crumbling around him. He'd learn soon enough. The first article appeared on the Marble Steps blog at 11:47 p.m. Questions surround federal prosecutors' finances. Adrian Vale's offshore accounts draw scrutiny. The post was carefully worded, with no direct accusations, just pointed questions about unexplained income, unusual financial patterns, and offshore accounts that seemed inconsistent with a government salary. It included enough documentation to be credible, enough gaps to invite further investigation. By 6 a.m., 3 major news outlets had picked up the story. By 8 a.m., the Washington Post was running a front-page expose. By 10 a.m., cable news had Adrian Vale standing outside the DOJ building, surrounded by reporters, his practiced smile looking significantly more strained than usual. These allegations are baseless, Vale said, his voice steady despite the bead of sweat forming on his temples. I welcome any investigation into my finances. I have absolutely nothing to hide. But his eyes told a completely different story, cold calculation mixed with the first chilling whisper of fear. Back at Bandy's, Luca watched the press conference on his office screen, Isabella and Matteo flanking him, their expressions grimly satisfied. He was clearly shaken. Isabella observed, noting, "See how he keeps touching his tie? That's his tell. He does it when he's lying." "Good," Luca responded, his voice devoid of emotion. "Let him be rattled. Let him wonder who leaked it, how much more we have, whether his whole life is about to implode." "Boss, we just made an enemy of a federal prosecutor," Matteo said quietly. "Even if we destroy his career, he's still got the resources to come after us." "Which is why we don't stop," Luca said, turning from the screen. "Isabella, how quickly can you package the next batch? The evidence tampering files. I can have them ready in 6 hours. But Luca, if we drop them this fast, Vale will know someone's orchestrating this. He'll go into full defense mode. Let him, Luca countered. The faster we move, the less time he has to prepare counterattacks. Luca pulled out his phone, checked the dead man's switch status. Active. And if he's busy defending himself, he's not hunting. His phone buzzed. Detective Morrison Bellendi? A voice said on the other end. I need to talk to you about the leak. I'm listening, Luca replied. Half the DOJ is in crisis mode. The FBI is opening a preliminary inquiry. Internal Affairs is demanding Vale turn over financial records. A pause. You kicked a hornet's nest. That was the plan, Luca confirmed. Yeah, well, hornets sting back. I've been warned unofficially to stay away from this case. Apparently, Vale's making calls, reminding people of favors owed. Morrison's voice hardened. But he made a mistake. He called Deputy Commissioner Hayes, reminded him how Vale helped Barry Hayes' son's DUI. Hayes is the one who warned me and he's pissed. Said he's tired of Vale treating the department like his personal favor bank. Luca smiled coldly. Then Hayes might want to know about the other favors Vale collected. The insurance files showing him blackmailing half the brass. You have that. Morrison's voice was sharp. That's evidence of systematic corruption. Yes, Luca confirmed. And it's documented, dated, cross-referenced. He glanced at Isabella, who nodded. How many honest cops do you trust, detective? Ones who wouldn't warn Vale. A long pause. Maybe 10. Maybe. That's enough. Get me a list. Isabella will send them packages tonight, anonymously. Let them see what their golden boy prosecutor really is. Let them decide if they want to keep protecting him. This is getting big, Bellendi. Bigger than one abusive prosecutor. You're talking about exposing corruption throughout the DOJ and police department. Yes. Luca's voice was flat, final. And maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe Vale isn't an aberration. Maybe he's a symptom. Maybe the whole system is infected and needs burning down. That's not justice. That's chaos, detective. I've spent 20 years watching your system fail, Luca countered. Watching it protect men like Vale while their victims suffer in silence. Watching good cops get outnumbered by corrupt ones. Luca's voice went hard. So, forgive me if I don't trust the system to fix itself. This is me giving it one chance. Burn out the infection or watch it spread. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then send me the files. I'll distribute them. But, Bellendi, if this goes sideways, if innocent people get hurt because of the chaos you're creating, then I'll own it, Luca interjected, finishing the sentence. But right now, innocent people are getting hurt because the system is broken. I'm just making it visible. He ended the call. Isabella was already preparing encrypted packages, dividing the blackmail material among the 10 names Morrison would provide. This is going to get messy, she said quietly. When those cops see evidence of their bosses taking bribes, their colleagues covering for criminals, some of them will go public. Others will try to bury it deeper. You're creating a war inside the police department. Good, Luca responded. Let them fight amongst themselves. Let the corrupt ones panic and make mistakes. Let the honest ones finally have ammunition to use. Luca moved to the window, watching the morning crowd filter into Bondi's for lunch. We've spent years staying hidden, buying the silence we needed to operate. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. Maybe it's time to show the city exactly what we are and what they are. Matteo frowned. Boss, that's a fundamental shift in strategy. We've always operated on the principle of staying invisible, buying cooperation. Cooperation bought through fear and favors isn't cooperation, Luca said, turning, his expression hard. It's temporary silence. Vale taught me something. He bought his protection the same way we do, through leverage, through compromising people, through making himself indispensable. The difference is he's a prosecutor, and I'm a criminal. But the tactics are identical. So what? We just start playing fair? Matteo's voice was incredulous. No, Luca corrected, a sharp smile spreading across his face. We start playing honest. I'm done pretending I'm worse than them. I break the law to make money. Vale breaks the law to hurt people. I'm a criminal. He's a monster. And I'm tired of letting monsters wear badges while men like me take the blame. Isabella looked up from her laptops. So this isn't just about Era anymore? It was never just about Era. Luca's voice was quiet, honest. It was about what she represents. About a system so broken that a woman has to ask a criminal for protection from a prosecutor. About corruption so deep that honest cops can't function. About power being used to hurt instead of protect. He paused. Era made me see it clearly, but the rot's been there all along. His phone buzzed again. This time, a text from the burner he'd given her. Era, are you watching the news? Adrienne's on every channel. Did you do this? He typed back. Yes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, she wrote. Why? He responded. Because he needs to answer for what he did to you. And because the system won't make him answer unless we force it to. A long pause, then, thank you. I'm scared, but thank you. Don't be scared, he texted back. Be ready. This is just the beginning. By afternoon, the story had metastasized. It wasn't just financial irregularities anymore. Now reporters were digging into Vale's case history, finding patterns. Defendants with political connections getting plea deals. Evidence that mysteriously disappeared. Witnesses who recanted testimony. Senator Reeves called at 3 p.m. What did you do? Her voice was sharp. I said I'd make quiet inquiries. Now it's a media circus. I accelerated the timeline, Luca explained. Vale was escalating. I needed him distracted, defensive, too busy to hunt. Well, he's definitely distracted. The Ethics Committee is convening an emergency session tomorrow. The Attorney General is demanding a full accounting. She paused. And 3 police officers just submitted formal complaints about Vale coercing them into evidence tampering. Where did they get the documentation? From someone who cares about justice more than politics. Luca, this is spiraling. If Vale's people trace this back to you, let them, Luca said, his voice steady, certain. I'm not hiding anymore. Senator, you asked me what I get out of this. Luca continued. Here's the truth. I get to sleep at night knowing I used my power for something besides money. I get to look at Era and tell her I kept my promise. And I get to remind this whole corrupt city that some lines shouldn't be crossed, regardless of who's crossing them. Patricia was quiet. Then you're either the noblest criminal I've ever met or the most dangerous idealist. Maybe I'm both. A soft laugh came from the other end of the line. Maybe you are. The Ethics Committee meets at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'll be asking very pointed questions about the complaints filed against Vale. His friends can't bury this anymore. It's too public. Thank you, Senator. Don't thank me. Just keep that woman safe. If Vale is as dangerous as you say, tomorrow's hearing will push him over the edge. Luca knew she was right. Cornered predators were unpredictable, vicious. Vale would either collapse under the pressure or lash out violently. He needed to be ready for both. That evening, Era came to his office after her shift ended. She looked exhausted, frightened, but something else, too. Something like cautious hope. The whole restaurant is talking about it, she said, sitting across from him. About Adrian? About the investigation? Luca asked. No one knows She trailed off. No one will know unless you want them to, Luca said gently, pouring her a glass of wine. A Pinot Grigio that wouldn't overwhelm. Your name stays protected, but people will figure it out eventually. When the other women come forward, when the pattern becomes clear. Her hands shook slightly. I'll have to testify, won't I? Not if you don't want to. We have enough documentation to destroy him without your testimony. But I want to. The words came out fierce, surprising them both. I want to stand in front of a judge and tell them what he did. I want him to see my face and know I'm not afraid anymore. Luca studied her, this woman who'd been terrorized for years, who'd fled and hidden and learned to disappear. Now she wanted to be visible, wanted to be heard. You're not the same person who walked into my restaurant 3 weeks ago. No. She met his eyes, steady despite the fear. Because 3 weeks ago, I thought I'd always be powerless. I thought men like Adrian just won. That there was no point fighting back. She sipped the wine. But you're fighting back. You're using every weapon you have to destroy him. And you're doing it for me even though it puts you at risk. How am I supposed to stay scared after seeing that? Ella, I know what you are, Luca, she said softly. I know you're a criminal. I know the empire you've built isn't legal or clean or any of the things society says it should be, she continued, her voice softening. But you're also the only person who looked at my bruises and decided to do something, who didn't tell me to file a report or get a lawyer or just move on. You declared war on a federal prosecutor because he hurt me. That's not nothing. The self-interest, too. Vale's investigating me. Stop, she said, leaning forward, her gaze intense. Stop pretending this is just tactical. I've seen how you look at me. I've heard the way you say dolce like it's a prayer. This isn't just business for you. He couldn't deny it, wouldn't insult her intelligence by trying. No, he admitted quietly. It's not just business. It stopped being business the moment I saw those bruises and wanted to break things. When I started planning Vale's destruction, not because he's investigating me, but because he hurt you. He paused. I'm not a good man, Era, but I'm trying to be good for you. Trying to prove that power can protect instead of destroy. Then let me help, she said. Her voice was steady, determined. Let me be part of this. I'm not just a victim you're rescuing. I'm a survivor who wants to fight back. Luca considered this. Everything in him wanted to keep her hidden, protected out of the line of fire, but he also recognized that instinct is possessive, controlling of the same impulse Vale had used to cage her. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to contact the other women, the ones who filed complaints against Adrian. I want them to know they're not alone, that someone's finally holding him accountable. She pulled out her phone, the one he'd given her. Detective Morrison gave me their names, told me you approved it. I did, but approaching them could be dangerous. If Vale finds out, he's gonna find out anyway. Tomorrow's hearing will make everything public. Her eyes were bright, fierce. I've spent 3 years hiding. I'm done. Let Adrian know I'm coming for him. Let him be the one who's afraid for once. Luca felt something warm bloom in his chest. Pride, admiration, maybe something deeper. This wasn't the terrified woman who'd fled his office 3 days ago. This was someone finding her strength, her voice, her power. All right, he said quietly. But you don't contact them alone. Matteo goes with you, and you meet in public places on days when Vale is tied up with hearings or meetings. Agreed. She stood, moved around his desk. Thank you for believing I could be more than just someone you saved. Era, he said, catching her hand gently. You were always more. I just gave you space to remember it. She looked down at their joined hands, at the fading bruises on her wrist next to his tanned fingers. Then, slowly, deliberately, she lifted his hand and pressed it against her cheek. I'm starting to trust you, she whispered. That terrifies me almost as much as Adrian did. I know, he responded, his thumb brushing across her skin, gentle, reverent. But I'll earn it every day until trusting me feels as natural as breathing. She left shortly after, and Luca sat in the darkness of his office, feeling the weight of responsibility settle across his shoulders. He'd promised to protect her, to give her justice, to prove that power could be used for good. Now he just had to deliver. Tomorrow the ethics committee would convene. Vale's carefully constructed life would start crumbling publicly, and somewhere in that chaos, the prosecutor would make a choice. Collapse or attack. Luca needed to be ready for both. He pulled out his phone, composed a message to his entire network. Threat level elevated. Adrian Vale to be considered armed and dangerous. Full surveillance on his movements. If he approaches Era Vasa's location, intervene immediately. Non-lethal if possible, whatever is necessary. If not. The responses came quickly, acknowledgments from across his organization. People moving into position. A citywide net closing around one desperate prosecutor. Outside, Washington glittered with its usual cold beauty, power, and monuments, and the illusion of justice. Inside Belandi's, real power hummed beneath the surface, the kind that didn't need monuments, the kind that protected its own. And somewhere in Georgetown, Adrian Vale poured his fourth drink of the night and wondered who was coming for him, not realizing the answer was simple. Everyone he'd ever hurt, led by the one man in Washington more dangerous than a federal prosecutor, a criminal with a conscience. The Ethics Committee hearing began at 10 a.m. In a wood-paneled room that smelled of old books and older power. Adrian Vale sat at the defendant's table, flanked by two expensive lawyers, his expression carefully composed despite the media circus outside. Senator Patricia Reeves sat on the committee panel, her face professionally neutral as she reviewed documents. But Luca, watching via secure live stream from his office, could see the steel in her eyes. Mr. Vale, the committee chair began, we're here to discuss allegations regarding financial irregularities, potential ethics violations, and concerns about your conduct as a federal prosecutor. Do you understand the gravity of these proceedings? I do, Senator. Vale's voice was smooth, confident. And I welcome the opportunity to address these baseless accusations. Baseless? Patricia's voice cut across the room. Mr. Vale, we have documentation showing offshore accounts totaling over $300,000. Money that cannot be accounted for by your government salary. Would you care to explain that? Those accounts are from investments, Senator, inheritance from my late uncle. All perfectly legal and properly reported on my tax returns. Then you won't mind providing documentation proving that inheritance, bank transfers, will execution, proof of provenance. Patricia's smile was razor-sharp. Vale's lawyer leaned in, whispered urgently. Vale's face tightened fractionally. A tell so small most people missed it. But Luca, who'd spent years reading people, caught it. He doesn't have the documentation. He's lying. I'll need time to gather those records, Vale said smoothly. They're stored with my accountant. Of course, Patricia said. We'll give you 48 hours. She flipped through more papers. Now, regarding the complaints filed by Officers Martinez, Chen, and Lopez, they allege you coerced them into tampering with evidence in at least 5 separate cases. Do you deny these allegations? Absolutely. These officers clearly have an agenda. An agenda? Patricia's voice went cold. All 3 officers have exemplary records. All 3 have passed polygraph examinations affirming their statements. All 3 have provided detailed accounts corroborated by digital communications showing you explicitly instructing them to lose evidence, misplace reports, and forget witness statements. She leaned forward. So I'll ask again. Do you deny these allegations? Vale's composure cracked slightly. Senator, I've dedicated my career to justice. You've dedicated your career to corruption. The new voice came from the gallery. A woman stood mid-40s, professionally dressed, her face a mask of controlled fury. My name is Margaret Chen. I'm Officer Chen's wife, and I'm also one of the 8 women Adrian Vale assaulted over the past decade. The room exploded. Reporters surged forward. The committee chair banged his gavel, calling for order. Vale had gone white. From his office, Luca watched the chaos unfold, a cold smile on his face. Margaret Chen wasn't on his list of Vale's victims, which meant women were coming forward on their own now. The floodgates were opening. Order! Order! The committee chair's gavel cracked like gunshots. Mrs. Chen, this is highly irregular. So is a federal prosecutor using his position to abuse women for 10 years while everyone looks the other way. Margaret's voice carried across the room, steady despite her shaking hands. I tried to report him 8 years ago. The detective who took my statement told me it would be my word against a prosecutor's, that I'd be destroying my career for nothing. So I stayed silent. Her eyes locked on Vale. But I'm not silent anymore. None of us are. 2 more women stood. Then 3 more. By the time security managed to restore order, 7 women were standing in the gallery, their presence a silent testimony to Vale's pattern of abuse. Patricia seized the moment. Mr. Chairman, I move that we expand this investigation to include allegations of assault, harassment, and abuse of power. These women deserve to be heard. Senator Reeves, that's outside the scope of... The scope just changed. Patricia's voice was hard as iron. We're either going to investigate all of Adrian Vale's conduct, or I'm walking out of this hearing and holding my own press conference on the Capitol steps. Your choice. The chairman looked at Vale's ashen face, at the women standing in defiant silence, at the reporters already streaming footage to every news outlet in America. Motion passes. This hearing is adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Mr. Vale, you are ordered to surrender your badge and firearm pending the outcome of this investigation. Vale stood slowly, his carefully constructed world visibly crumbling. His lawyers flanked him, already whispering damage control strategies as they hustled him toward a side exit. But Margaret Chen's voice followed him. We're not afraid of you anymore, Adrian. We're not alone, and we're going to make sure everyone knows exactly what you are. Luca ended the stream and immediately called Matteo. Where's Era? Safe house in Arlington. Rosa is with her. For guards outside. She's been watching the hearing. A pause. Boss. She wants to join them. The women who came forward. She wants to add her name to theirs. Absolutely not. Vale's cornered now. This is when he's most dangerous. I know. I told her that. Matteo's voice carried reluctant admiration. She said she didn't survive 3 years of abuse just to hide while other women fight her battle. Luca closed his eyes, torn between protective fury and understanding. He'd seen that determination before in his mother's eyes right before she tried to leave his father. The need to stand up, to be counted, to prove you weren't broken. It had gotten his mother killed. Put her on, he said quietly. There was rustling. Then Era's voice, firm despite the underlying fear. Before you say no, I'm not saying no. I'm saying not yet, Luca replied, keeping his voice calm, reasonable. Vale just lost everything in front of the entire country. Right now, he's desperate, unpredictable. If he knows you're one of the women testifying, you become a target. I'm already a target, Luca. He's been hunting me for 2 months. Yes, but he's been hunting you quietly, trying to find you, control you, bring you back. Luca moved to his window, watching the city below. Now he's got nothing to lose. Prison is inevitable. His career is over. His reputation is destroyed. The only thing left is revenge. Silence followed. So what do you want me to do? Hide forever? I want you to wait 48 hours. Let Vale show his hand. Let him make his move. His voice softened. And then, when we know where he is and what he's planning, you can come forward. You can testify. You can tell the whole world what he did to you, but on our terms, not his. You're asking me to be patient when other women are being brave. I'm asking you to be smart. Those women who came forward, they have husbands, families, support systems. You have me, Rosa, and people Vale would love to paint as criminals protecting you to discredit my investigation. The honesty was brutal. Your testimony will carry more weight if it comes after we've neutralized his ability to retaliate. She was quiet for a long moment. 48 hours. 48 hours. Then I'll personally escort you to Senator Reeves's office, and you can tell your story to the Ethics Committee, the FBI, and every reporter in Washington. He paused. I promise, Dolce, you'll be heard. But let's make sure you're alive to speak first. All right. Her voice was small, reluctant. 48 hours. But Luca, if Adrian comes for me before then, I'm not going quietly. I'm not letting him take me again. He won't get the chance. I have 20 people between him and you right now. He'd have to go through all of them to reach you. Would he? The question hung in the air. Would Adrian Vale, desperate and cornered, try to get to Era, even knowing it meant going through Luca's people? Would rage and possessiveness override survival instinct? I don't know, Luca admitted, but I'm prepared for the possibility. After ending the call, he turned to Isabella, who'd been monitoring Vale's communications from her laptop nest in the corner. Talk to me. What's Vale doing? Panicking. She pulled up intercepted emails. He's fired his legal team. The smart ones who were telling him to cooperate hired new lawyers. The aggressive kind, who file frivolous motions and attack witnesses. She clicked through more screens. He's also made 17 calls to his uncle, the deputy chief. Looks like he's calling in every favor he has left. Can his uncle protect him at this point? Not legally. The Ethics Committee investigation is federal. The deputy chief has no jurisdiction. But Isabella's expression darkened. He could provide resources, access, help Vale disappear if it comes to that. You think Vale would run? I think Vale has two options. Accept prison or disappear. And men like him don't accept consequences. She pulled up traffic camera footage. His car has been circling a 5-block radius in Georgetown for the past 2 hours. Not going home, not going to his lawyers, just driving. Luca studied the footage, watching the black Audi make the same pattern over and over. Hunting behavior. A predator trying to make sense of its territory. Looking for prey it couldn't find. He's going to make a move tonight, Luca said quietly. The hearing destroyed him publicly. Now he needs to feel in control again. Needs to hurt someone to prove he still has power. Era. If he can find her, if he can't. Luca pulled up files on his phone. He's going to target someone else from his past. Someone he still believes he can control. So how do you want to handle this? Double Isabella's security. He locked eyes with her. I need you to do something that could get you arrested if it goes south. I'm listening. Can you track Vale's phone in real time? Not just tower pings, but the actual GPS location. Technically, yes, Isabella said. Legally, absolutely not. Surveilling a prosecutor without a warrant is a federal offense, even one under investigation. I'm not asking if it's legal, Luca pressed. I'm asking if you can do it. Isabella paused, carefully considering the risks. Give me 30 minutes. But Luca, if Vale's people catch wind of this, they'll use it to invalidate the entire investigation against him. Fruit of the poisonous tree and all that. Then don't get caught. His voice was cold, absolute. And if you do get caught, you've never met me. This is a personal vendetta, has nothing to do with my organization. I'll ensure you have the best lawyers money can buy, but I can't be linked to this. Understood. She turned back to her laptops, her fingers already flying across the keys. Matteo moved closer, his voice low. Boss, if we're tracking a federal prosecutor without a warrant, we're crossing a line we've avoided for years. Vale crossed lines when he beat Era, when he coerced cops into evidence tampering, when he spent a decade terrorizing women and hiding behind his badge. Luca's voice was hard. I'm done pretending there are rules both sides follow. He plays dirty, so do we. The difference is I'm honest about it. And if this leads to our entire operation getting exposed, then I'll burn it all down before I let Vale hurt her. The words were flat, final. I built this empire to have power, Matteo. Power to protect, power to choose who lives and dies in my territory, power to make sure I'm never helpless again. He turned, his eyes dark with conviction. If I won't use that power to save one woman from a monster, then what's the point? I might as well be as corrupt as the system I claim to be better than. Matteo studied him for a long moment. You're really willing to risk everything for her? I'm willing to risk everything to prove I'm still human enough to care. Luca moved to his desk and pulled out a locked drawer. Inside was a handgun he rarely carried. Power without principle is just tyranny with a different name. Vale taught me that. Now I'm going to teach him what happens when principle has power behind it. He checked the weapon, methodical and calm. Matteo recognized the look. The cold focus that meant Luca was preparing for violence, calculating outcomes, and accepting consequences. You think he'll come tonight? Matteo asked. Not a question, Luca replied. I know he will. Men like Vale, when they lose everything, they need to hurt someone to feel powerful again. He can't get to Era, we've made sure of that. So, he'll go after someone else, a witness maybe, or one of the women who testified today. Luca holstered the gun. I'm not letting that happen. What do you need from me? Protection details on all 7 women who came forward today. They don't know they're being guarded, but if Vale comes near any of them, I want our people there first. He pulled up a map on his computer, marking locations. Assign teams here, here, and here. Rotate every 4 hours. Stay invisible unless Vale appears. And if he does appear, detain him. Call Detective Morrison immediately. She'll bring official police and make it a legitimate arrest. But, Mateo. Luca's voice went deadly quiet. If he resists, if he tries to hurt anyone, if he reaches for a weapon, end it. I don't care about the legal complications. I care about making sure no one else gets hurt. Mateo nodded, already texting assignments to their people. As he worked, Isabella called out from her corner. Got him. Vale's phone is broadcasting GPS now. I've set up alerts. If he enters a 5-block radius of Era's location or any of the women who testified, you'll get pinged immediately. Good work. Luca studied the tracker on her screen, watching the little that represented Adrian Vale continue its aimless circling through Georgetown. Now we wait. They didn't have to wait long. At 7:43 p.m. Isabella's alert chimed. Vale's car is moving with purpose now, heading northeast toward Bethesda, toward Margaret Chen's address. He's going after the woman who confronted him, Mateo said, already calling the protection team. Team 3, Vale's heading your way. ETA 12 minutes. Get in position. Luca watched the tracker, his mind calculating. Margaret Chen had been brave enough to stand up in that hearing, to put a face to Vale's pattern of abuse. Now she was his target, the woman who'd humiliated him publicly, who'd started the avalanche that buried his career. Get Morrison on the line, Luca said. Tell her we have credible intelligence that Vale is heading to Margaret Chen's residence with possible violent intent. Make it official. While Mateo called the detective, Luca pulled up additional screens, traffic cameras along Vale's route, the security feed from Margaret Chen's suburban street, the positions of his protection team. Everything was in place. Vale was driving into a trap, too focused on revenge to notice the net closing around him. But something nagged at Luca, something felt wrong. Isabella, pull up Vale's call records for the past hour. She typed rapidly. 3 calls to his uncle, 2 to a blocked number, probably burner phones. 1, 2. That's weird. What? He called his own office at DOJ, a number that's listed as his assistant's line. She pulled up more data. But his assistant was fired this afternoon as part of the suspension. So who answered? Luca's blood went cold. It's a decoy. The phone in the car. Someone else is driving it. Vale's smart, paranoid. He knows people might be watching. Luca was already moving, grabbing his jacket. The car heading to Chen's house is a distraction. Where's Vale really going? Isabella's fingers flew across the keys, pulling up data streams. If he ditched his phone, I can check credit cards, but if he's using cash, forget technology. Think psychology. Mateo appeared at Luca's side, his expression grim. If you're Vale, you've just lost everything. Your career, your reputation, your power. What's the one thing you'd want more than revenge on the woman who exposed you? Luca's eyes met Mateo's, and they both realized it simultaneously. Era, they said in unison. He's not going after Margaret Chen. He's using her as bait, drawing our resources away from the real target. Luca was already running for the stairs. Call everyone back. All teams converge on Arlington now. Boss, how would Vale even know where Era is? We've kept that location secure. His uncle's the deputy chief. He has access to surveillance systems, databases, resources we can't match. If Vale asked him to find her, he could have done it hours ago. We just handed him the perfect distraction to get our people out of position. Luca hit the street at a sprint, Mateo following. They reached Luca's car, a black Mercedes that looked civilian but had armor plating and an engine that could outrun most police vehicles. Mateo drove while Luca coordinated on his phone. All teams, abort Margaret Chen surveillance. Return to Arlington safe house immediately. This is priority 1. He switched lines. Isabella, I need eyes on location. Pull up every camera feed we have. Already on it, boss. Her voice went tight. We've got a problem. 2 of the exterior cameras just went offline, the ones covering the rear entrance. That's not a malfunction. No. Someone cut them 30 seconds ago. Luca's hands clenched into fists. How many guards are on site? For outside, 2 inside with Era and Rosa. Tell the inside team to lock down. Nobody opens any doors. And tell them, he paused, hating what he was about to say. Tell them if Adrian Vale somehow gets inside, they are authorized to use lethal force. No warnings, no negotiations. He's there to kill her. Mateo pushed the Mercedes harder, weaving through traffic. They were still 15 minutes out. 15 minutes for Vale to breach the building, get to Era, and finish what he'd started 3 years ago. Luca pulled out his own weapon, checked the magazine. Beside him, Mateo did the same. We're going to make it, Mateo said, though his voice carried doubt. We have to. Luca stared at the phone tracker showing their progress. Too slow. They were moving too slow. Because if they didn't make it, if Vale got to her before they arrived, he didn't finish the sentence, didn't need to. They both knew what happened to women who stayed in Adrian Vale's reach too long. The Mercedes screamed through the night, racing against a desperate prosecutor's final play. And in Arlington, Era sat in a safe house with guards outside and locks on the doors, unaware that the monster she'd fled was finally coming to claim his revenge. Era was reading when the lights went out, not just in her apartment. The entire building went dark simultaneously, emergency lighting flickering on 2 seconds later, casting everything in a sickly green. Rosa looked up from her laptop, confused. What just happened? Get down. The command came from Marcus, one of Luca's guards. He was already moving toward them, his hand on his weapon. Both of you away from the windows. Era's training from 3 years with Adrian kicked in. The hypervigilance, the constant awareness of danger. She grabbed Rosa and pulled her toward the interior bathroom, the most defensible position in the apartment. What's happening? Rosa's voice shook. I don't know. Just stay quiet. Through the apartment walls, she heard Marcus speaking urgently into his radio. We've lost power. All exterior cameras down. Possible breach in progress, requesting immediate backup. He stopped mid-sentence, hearing the unmistakable sound of a door being kicked in. Not her door, but somewhere else in the building. Then shouting and a gunshot. Rosa grabbed her arm, eyes wide with terror. Era put a hand over her sister's mouth, whispering, "Don't make a sound." More footsteps in the hallway outside. Heavy, purposeful. Then Adrienne's voice, calm and conversational. I know you're in there, Era. I know you can hear me. And I know Luca Belandi's little soldiers are between us. A pause. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to come out. We're going to have a conversation just like old times. And if you cooperate, nobody else has to get hurt. Marcus's voice, hard and professional. Mr. Vale, you need to leave immediately. The police are already en route. The police work for me. Adrienne's laugh was unhinged, stripped of the polished charm he'd always worn. Or they did, before you people destroyed my career, before that bitch in there decided to ruin my life. Sir, I'm warning you. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed hallway. Era heard Marcus cry out, heard the heavy thud of a body hitting the floor. Rosa's scream was muffled by Era's hand, but terror made them both shake uncontrollably. One down, Adrian called out cheerfully. How many more of Belandi's people do I have to kill before you come out, Era? 2? 3? I've got plenty of ammunition, and I've got nothing left to lose. Era's mind raced. Marcus was down. That left 1 guard inside, Johnson positioned near the front door, and 4 guards outside. But if Adrian had made it this far, he'd probably dealt with them already. She was alone with her sister, a locked bathroom door between them and a man who'd spent 3 years teaching her exactly how creative he could be with violence. Era. Adrienne's fist pounded against the apartment door. I'm going to count to 10. If you don't come out, I'm going to assume you want this to get messy. And you know how I get when things get messy. Rosa was crying silently against her shoulder. Era held her tight, her mind working through options. The bathroom had 1 tiny window too small to escape through. No weapons except what they could improvise. No way to call for help because their phones were in the living room. 1. Adrian began counting. 2. 3. There's another way out, Rosa whispered desperately. The fire escape is in the kitchen, past Adrian. Era's voice was steady despite her terror. 3 years of survival had taught her to think clearly in a crisis. We can't get there. 4, 5, 6. Then what do? We survive. Era stood, her decision made. You stay here. Lock the door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Luca or the police. What? No, you can't. 7, 8. He wants me, not you. If I go out there, if I talk to him, maybe I can stall long enough for help to arrive. Era grabbed her sister's face, forcing Rosa to meet her eyes. You're my baby sister. I've protected you our whole lives. I'm not stopping now. Era, please. 9. I love you. Era kissed Rosa's forehead, then moved toward the bathroom door. Lock it. Don't open it, no matter what you hear. 10. The apartment door exploded inward. Adrian must have brought something to breach it. Era heard Johnson shout, heard the struggle. Another gunshot, then Adrian's voice closer now. I can do this all night, Era. How many people are you willing to let me kill? She opened the bathroom door and stepped out. Adrian stood in her living room, gun in hand, his expensive suit rumpled and stained. Blood, not his, splattered across his shirt. His eyes were wild, the mask of civilization completely stripped away. There's my girl. His smile was terrible to witness. I've missed you. Behind him, Johnson lay on the floor, clutching his shoulder where he'd been shot. Still alive but out of the fight. Let him go, Era said quietly, fighting to keep her voice steady. Let him get medical attention. Then we'll talk. Just you and me like you wanted. You think you're in a position to negotiate? Adrian laughed, but he gestured to Johnson. Fine. Crawl out of here. Tell your boss his girlfriend wasn't worth dying for. Johnson stumbled toward the door, leaving a blood trail. Era watched him go, watched her last protection disappear, and fought down panic. Now she was alone with the monster. Adrian holstered his gun, not putting it away, just making his hands free for other things. 3 years, Era. 3 years you've been running from me, making me look like a fool, telling lies about me to anyone who'd listen. They weren't lies. They weren't your truth to tell. The explosion of rage was sudden, terrifying. He crossed the room in 2 strides, his hand closing around her throat. I gave you everything. A home, a career, a place beside one of the most powerful men in Washington. And you repaid me by destroying everything I built. Era couldn't breathe, couldn't speak. She clawed at his hand, but he was stronger, fueled by rage and desperation. Did you really think you could hide? His voice was soft now, intimate, the way it always got right before he heard her worst. Did you think Balandi could protect you? He's a criminal, Era. He'll be in prison soon, and then who will keep you safe? Dark spots danced across her vision. Her lungs burned. This was it. After everything, after escaping and building a new life and finding someone who actually wanted to protect her, she was going to die in this apartment at Adrian's hands. Then his grip loosened, not from mercy, but from calculation. No, he said thoughtfully. Killing you quick would be letting you off easy. You need to understand what you cost me, what you took from me. He released her throat, and she collapsed to her knees, gasping. We're going to take our time like we used to. Remember, Era? Remember how good you were at taking what you deserved. She remembered. God help her. She remembered every moment of the past 3 years. Every bruise, every threat, every night lying awake wondering if this would be the night he finally killed her. But something was different now. 3 years ago, she'd been alone, powerless, convinced she deserved what happened to her. Now she had Luca's voice in her head. Asterisk, you're not broken. You're surviving, and survivors fight back. As Adrian turned to close the apartment door, Era's hand closed around the heavy glass paperweight on her coffee table. Rosa's birthday gift last year. She stood silently, her whole body shaking with fear and fury and 3 years of compressed rage. Adrian turned back, saw her standing, saw the paperweight. Really? His laugh was mocking. You're going to fight back now? After 3 years of being my perfect victim? I was never your victim. Her voice was stronger than she felt. I was your prisoner. There's a difference. Cute. Put that down before you hurt yourself. He moved toward her, confident. Why wouldn't he be? He'd beaten her 100 times before. She'd never fought back before. Why would now be different? Because now she had something to fight for. Not just survival, but the life she'd started building. The safety she'd found in Luca's protection. The other women who'd come forward because she'd given them courage. When Adrian reached for her, Era swung the paperweight with everything she had. It connected with his temple with a sickening crack. Adrian staggered, shocked. Blood poured down his face. He raised his gun. Era swung again, this time catching his wrist. The gun clattered to the floor. You! He lunged for her, rage overriding pain. They crashed into the coffee table, glass shattering. Adrienne's hands found her throat again, squeezing. But this time Era had the paperweight. She brought it down on his shoulder, his back, anywhere she could reach. He howled and rolled away, clutching his injured shoulder. Era scrambled for his gun, her hands closing around cold metal. She'd never fired a weapon before. Adrian had forbidden it, said she was too emotional, too unstable, would hurt herself. But she knew the basics. Safety off, point, pull the trigger. She spun, raising the gun with shaking hands. Adrian was on his feet, blood streaming from his temple, murder in his eyes. You're not going to shoot me, he said, taking a step forward. You're not brave enough. You're not strong enough. You're nothing without me telling you what to do. You're wrong. Her finger found the trigger. I'm everything you tried to destroy, and I survived you. That makes me stronger than you'll ever be. He lunged. She fired. The gunshot was deafening. Adrian jerked backward, clutching his thigh where the bullet had torn through muscle. He collapsed, screaming. Era kept the gun trained on him, her whole body shaking violently. Stay down. Don't move. Don't you dare move. You shot me. His voice was disbelieving, agonized. You actually shot me. You killed Marcus. You shot Johnson. You broke into my home and tried to strangle me. Her voice was remarkably steady. I shot you in the leg. Adrian, if I wanted you dead, I'd have aimed higher. The bathroom door burst open. Rosa stood there, phone in hand. I called 911. Police are coming. And I called Luca. He's 3 minutes out. 3 minutes. Era just had to keep Adrian down for 3 more minutes. He was crying now, clutching his leg, blood pooling beneath him. This isn't over. You think this changes anything? I'll destroy you in court. I'll make sure everyone knows you're unstable, violent. Shut up. The command came out cold, final. You don't get to talk anymore. You don't get to threaten me. You don't get to touch me. You're done. Adrian, can you hear the sirens? That's your life ending. That's justice finally catching up to you. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Adrian's face was pale now, shock setting in from blood loss. He tried to stand, to move toward her, but his leg wouldn't support his weight. Era. His voice had changed, gone pleading. Please, you know I love you. I only hurt you because you made me. We can fix this. We can go back to how things were. I'd rather die. The words came out simple, honest. I would literally rather die than spend another second under your control. That's how much I hate what you are. That's how much I hate what you made me become. The apartment door burst open. Luca appeared, weapon drawn, Matteo right behind him. They took in the scene instantly. Adrian bleeding on the floor, Era standing over him with his own gun, Rosa crying in the bathroom doorway. Luca's eyes met Era's. She saw relief, pride, and something deeper, something that looked like love. I shot him, she said numbly. He came for me, and I shot him. Good. Luca moved toward her carefully, hands visible, non-threatening. You defended yourself. You survived. I'm so proud of you, Dolce. His hand gently covered hers on the gun. But you can let go now. I've got you. You're safe. Her fingers wouldn't release. Trauma locked her muscles rigid, unable to process that the threat was over, that she'd won. Era. His voice was soft, anchoring. Look at me. Not at him, at me. She tore her eyes from Adrienne's crumpled form and met Luca's gaze. Dark eyes, steady and sure, filled with certainty and strength. You survived, he said quietly. It's over. You can let go now. Her fingers opened. The gun fell away. And then she collapsed into Luca's arms. 3 years of terror finally releasing in gut-wrenching sobs. He held her while she shook, while police flooded the building, while paramedics attended to Marcus and Johnson, and grudgingly to Adrienne. Detective Morrison arrived with federal agents. Adrienne was cuffed to a stretcher, screaming about corruption and conspiracies even as they loaded him into an ambulance. And through it all, Luca held Era, whispering promises in Italian she didn't understand but felt in her bones. You're safe. I've got you. He'll never touch you again. You're mine now, and I protect what's mine. When the chaos finally subsided, when Rosa had been checked by paramedics and given a sedative, when statements had been taken and evidence collected, Luca wrapped a blanket around Era and carried her to his car. Where are we going? She asked, her voice hoarse from Adrienne's hands on her throat. Somewhere safe. Somewhere he can never find you. He settled her in the passenger seat, his touch gentle despite the violence of the night. And then we're going to make sure Adrian Vale never threatens anyone again. He'll go to prison now, won't he, for what he did tonight? He'll go to prison for everything. Tonight just sealed it. Luca pulled onto the road, heading toward one of his private residences, somewhere no one but Matteo knew about. Attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, breaking and entering, violation of bail terms. Combined with the Ethics Committee investigation and the other women's testimonies. He'll die in prison. Era was quiet, processing. Then I shot him. You defended yourself. I could have killed him. Part of me wanted to. But you didn't. You showed restraint he never showed you. That makes you better than him, stronger than him. Luca reached over, took her hand carefully. You survived him. A lot of women don't. You escaped, rebuilt your life. And when he came for you that last time, you fought back. That's not weakness, Era. That's outright heroism. I don't feel like a hero, she countered, her voice tight. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's adrenaline and trauma talking. It'll pass, he assured her, squeezing her hand gently. But Era, listen to me closely. What you did tonight, standing up to him, protecting your sister, refusing to be a victim any longer. That's going to inspire every woman who has suffered what you've suffered. They're going to see that fighting back is possible, that survival is indeed possible, that men like Adrian Vale can be stopped dead in their tracks. She leaned her head against the cool window pane, watching the mesmerizing city lights blur past in streaks of color. Is it really over? Is it truly finished? She asked, almost afraid to believe it. Yes, he stated, his voice certain, resolute. Adrian Vale's reign of terror ended the precise moment you pulled that trigger and fired. It's done. He paused, then added, now comes the hard part. Healing, living, learning to exist in this world without the constant grip of fear. I don't know how to do that, she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Then I'll teach you, he vowed, his tone filled with unwavering determination. He pulled into the secured garage of a building she didn't recognize in the slightest. One day at a time, he said softly. One moment at a time, until fear is nothing more than a faded memory, and life is what you're actively living instead of merely enduring day after day. He came around to her door, helped her out with infinite gentleness and care, and led her through several security doors and up to a penthouse apartment that overlooked the majestic Potomac River. This is yours, he stated simply, for as long as you need it, and Rosa, too, whenever she's ready to come. It's secure, completely private, and registered under 3 shell companies that Vale could never possibly trace. You'll have guards, but they'll be invisible, always watching. You'll have freedom, but you'll also have complete protection. Era looked around the spacious apartment, taking it all in. It was beautiful, modern, everything Adrian's townhouse had pretended to be, but without the heavy shadows of violence staining every single corner and crevice. Why? She asked quietly, her voice filled with genuine wonder. Why are you doing all of this for me? After everything that's happened, why me? Luca was quiet for a long moment, studying her bruised throat, her tear-stained face, the incredible strength that shone so brightly through the obvious trauma she had endured. Because when I saw those bruises on you 3 weeks ago, something deep inside me broke, he confessed, his voice raw with emotion. Or maybe something that was already broken inside of me finally started to heal, little by little. Luca moved closer, but carefully, always giving her the space to refuse him, to back away if she needed to. I've spent the last 20 years of my life building power, so I'd never be helpless again, he explained, his gaze intense. Never again have to watch someone I care about suffer while I stand by, unable to help in any way. And then you walked into my restaurant, and I realized that all that power was completely worthless if I didn't use it for something beyond just money and territory. You made me see that. So, I'm your redemption project then? She asked, her voice tired, but curious rather than accusatory. Is that it? No, he answered, his voice quiet and steady. Absolutely not. You're the woman who reminded me that I'm still human enough to care about someone other than myself. That's worth more to me than any kind of redemption could ever be. He touched her face gently, his thumb brushing carefully around the fading bruises on her throat. I'm not a good man, Era, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I want to be good for you, good to you. And if that's the closest I ever get to actual redemption, then that's more than enough for me. She studied him, this dangerous man who had destroyed a federal prosecutor to keep her safe, who had risked his entire empire for the mere chance that she might heal, who looked at her like she was precious and valuable despite knowing exactly how broken she felt inside. I don't know how to trust this, she whispered, her voice filled with uncertainty. How to trust you? She continued. Every instinct I have tells me that powerful men always hurt. That protection is just control with prettier words and fancier packaging. I know, Lucas said, his voice laced with understanding. And I'm not asking you to trust me completely, not yet anyway. I'm asking you to rest, to heal, to allow yourself to feel safe long enough to remember what that actually feels like. And then, when you're ready, if you're ready, we'll figure out what this is between us, what it truly means. What if I'm never ready? She asked, her voice tinged with fear. What if I'm too damaged, too broken to ever truly heal? Then you're still worth protecting, he replied instantly, his gaze unwavering. Still worth caring about, still worth every single risk I took. His smile was soft, sad, unguarded. I don't need you to be perfect, Dolce. I just need you to be alive and free. Everything else is negotiable. We can work through everything else. The honesty in his words disarmed her completely. She'd expected conditions, obligations, the transactional nature of Adrian's so-called protection. Instead, Luca was offering her something she had never had in her entire life. Unconditional safety. Thank you, she said finally, her voice thick with emotion. For everything. For believing me, for protecting Rosa, for stopping him. Thank you. You stopped him, Luca corrected gently. I just made sure you had the space and the support you needed to do it. The courage was all yours. You were the one who pulled the trigger. Era laughed once. A sound that was fragile and exhausted. I don't feel courageous, she confessed. I feel terrified. And I feel like I might shatter into a million pieces if anyone even touches me. Then don't let anyone touch you, Luca said softly. Not until you're ready. Not until you give them permission. He moved toward the door. There's food in the kitchen, clothes in the bedroom, all your size. The bathroom is fully stocked, and there are phones on the counter programmed with your same numbers. She looked up, meeting his gaze directly. The door locks from the inside only, he said. I don't have a key. No one does. You're not a prisoner here, Era. You can leave whenever you want. But while you're here, you're absolutely safe. I promise you that. He left before she could answer, the door closing softly behind him. Era stood alone in the beautiful apartment, processing everything that had just happened. The attack, the fight, the shooting, Luca's rescue. This strange sanctuary offered without any strings attached. She moved to the window, looking out over the river, watching the city lights shimmer and dance across the dark water. Somewhere out there, Adrian Vale was lying in a hospital bed under arrest, his career destroyed, his power gone. The man who had terrorized her for the last 3 years was finally caged. And she was free. The realization hit her slowly, like dawn creeping over the horizon, chasing away the darkness. Free. Not hiding, not running, not constantly waiting for the next attack. Actually, truly free. She pressed her hand to the cool glass, grounding herself in that undeniable truth. She was alive. Rosa was safe. Adrian Vale was finished. And somewhere in this complicated, dangerous city, a criminal with a conscience had decided that she was worth saving. Days later, Era sat by the same window, overlooking the city. This time, she was wearing jeans and a comfortable sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. When she turned, Luca saw something in her eyes that he hadn't seen before. Peace. Tentative, fragile, but undeniably real. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi yourself, Dolce," he replied, his voice warm. He crossed the room and sat beside her, close but not crowding her space. "You look better," he observed. "I've been sleeping," she admitted. "Actually sleeping, not just passing out from exhaustion. It's been a long time." She smiled, a small, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "It's strange," she said. "I keep waiting for the fear to come back, for Adrian to call or show up." She stopped, her voice trailing off. "But he can't anymore, can he?" "No," Luca said, his voice firm. "He's in federal detention, maximum security. He's not getting bail again. And even if he did," his voice turned hard, dangerous. "He knows exactly what will happen if he ever comes near you again. He won't be given a second chance." "The city's going crazy," she said quietly. "Protests, investigations, politicians resigning. All because you decided I was worth saving." "You were always worth saving, Era," Luca replied, his gaze intense. "The only question was whether or not anyone would actually do it." He studied her profile against the window's reflection. "How do you feel, really? Deep down, how are you feeling?" Era was quiet for a long moment. "Grateful," she said finally. "Guilty. Angry that it took someone like you to get justice when the system should have protected me years ago. And confused about," she gestured between them, "this, whatever this is. What do you want it to be?" he asked, his voice soft. "I don't know," she admitted, turning to face him fully. "You terrify me, Luca. The power you have, the violence you're capable of. I watched you orchestrate a man's destruction like it was a game of chess. That should horrify me, but it doesn't." "But it doesn't," she admitted, tears welling in her eyes. "Because he deserved it. Because you used that power to protect me instead of hurt me. Because, for the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe again. How do I reconcile that? How do I want someone who's everything Adrian only pretended to be? Powerful, dangerous, in control. Except you're honest about it." Luca reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, and cupped her face in his hands. "Because intentions matter, Era," he said softly. "Vale used his power to break you, to control you. I used mine to free you. We might both live outside the law, but our reasons are polar opposites." His thumb brushed her cheek gently. "You're not broken for being drawn to strength, Era. You're wise enough to see the difference between strength that protects and strength that destroys." "What happens now?" she whispered. "Adrian's going to prison. I'm safe. Do we just go back to how things were? Me serving coffee while you run your empire? Is that what you want?" "No." The word came out fierce, surprising them both. "I don't want to hide anymore. I don't want to be invisible. I don't want to serve coffee and pretend I'm not." She stopped, her voice trembling slightly. "Not what?" he prompted gently. "Not falling for the man who saved me," she confessed, the words hanging between them, raw and honest. "Which is probably unhealthy and definitely complicated. But I can't help it. When I look at you, Luca, I don't see a criminal. I see the only person who gave a damn whether I lived or died." Luca's smile was soft, dangerous, possessive. Then don't hide anymore, he said, his voice low and husky. The city's watching. Let them see that you're not a victim anymore. You're a survivor. And if you want to be mine while you're surviving. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her lips. I'm not letting you go, Dolce. Not now. Not ever. That's terrifying, she whispered. I know, he murmured. His lips brushed hers, gentle despite the claiming in it. But you're not running, he murmured. No, she whispered against his mouth. I'm not. The kiss deepened, careful and intense. Both of them fully aware that they were crossing a line that could not be uncrossed. When they finally pulled apart, she was breathless, her eyes bright. The city forgets fast, Luca said quietly. In 6 months, this will be old news. Vale will be in prison and life will move on. But don't let them forget you, Era. Don't disappear back into the shadows. Live loudly, live boldly with me if you'll have me. His smile turned self-deprecating. I'm not an easy man to love, Era. I have enemies, secrets, a life you can't fully be a part of. But what I can promise you is that no one will ever hurt you again while I'm still breathing. That's not love, she observed softly. That's possession. It's both, he admitted, his honesty brutal, beautiful. I want you safe. I want you happy. I want you mine. Can you live with that, Era? Era thought about the past 3 years. The constant fear, the crushing isolation, the slow, agonizing death of living under Vale's control. Then she thought about the last 2 weeks. The unwavering protection, the hard-fought justice, the man who had burned down a city to set her free. Yes, she said finally, her voice filled with newfound conviction. I can live with that, as long as you understand that I'm not something fragile that you have to keep locked away. I'm done being hidden. Good. Luca's smile was fierce, proud, because the woman he wanted didn't hide. She's the one who survived hell and still has fight left in her. That woman doesn't need a cage, Dolce. She needs a partner who will watch her back while she takes on the world. He paused, then added with a wink. A partner who just happens to run half of DC's criminal underworld. Nobody's perfect, she teased. Her laugh came easily this time. Real. Unforced. The first genuine laugh Luca had ever heard from her. It sounded like freedom itself.